Hi, I'm Ed Marsh. Welcome to this episode of Signals from the OP. Signals is designed to put new ideas and perspectives in front of busy industrial company executives in brief, easily digestible videos. The most common challenge that I hear from industrial manufacturers is that it's hard to reach prospects. A common refrain sounds something like, when we're at the table, we win deals. We're having a really hard time getting to the table, though. We need leads and conversations. I think we can all identify with that. Even if we're not in sales, we can look at our own buying habits. We research online. Often, when we have only an idea or a question, we bounce from site to site. We may quickly leave sites that don't provide pricing or specs or other critical info. We might engage by filling out a form to download something. Or maybe we only want to see candid reviews from others. Sometimes, we might prefer to engage with a chatbot to help us find what we're looking for. In other words, you've heard the stats. We're often 70% of the way through our buying journey by the time we're even prepared to speak to a sales rep, at least to a traditional one. And then, in a B2B complex sales context, even once we're talking to one member of the buying team, there are statistically 10 others that we may not be. So how can we sell to them when we can't directly sell to them? That's the purpose of content marketing. You may have heard it called inbound marketing, digital marketing, or even just SEO. Each of those terms means different things to different people. But in general, in order to reach new buyers and help sell large buying teams of existing buyers, you need to create content. That means, for example, articles, guides and white papers, videos, webinars, tools like checklists and calculators, and press releases that you'll publish online and make available to your sales team to use. Many companies have started doing this. Lots of industrial manufacturing websites have a blog, for instance. The problem is that it's common to do 90% of the work for nearly zero return. And that's a shame. It's such a waste. And worst of all, when it happens, then companies tend to say, see, we knew it. That just doesn't work in our industry or with our buyers or whatever. So let's talk about how to optimize content marketing, how to make sure you get the maximum bang for your buck. We'll run through a bunch of tips in this video, but the fundamental consideration, the most important point to take away if you only take one, is this. Your content marketing must be about your buyer, their business, and what's important to them. Only in very limited and specific cases is it ever about you, your technology, your machines, your services, your staff, your building, your history, or any of the other topics that people naturally hew to. Now, one example of the latter is press releases. They're still going to fill a very specific tactical purpose, but they'll be executed in a way to reach new prospects and to help Google understand your business without forcing your current prospects, customers, or subscribers to endure your self-promotion. I'll drop a link in the video comments below to an article that discusses this. So we're going to start by focusing on the prospect, their business challenges, their market, the problems they have to solve, the outcomes they want to achieve, areas where they commonly wrestle with inefficiency, what their buyers might be thinking, lots of topics like that. And you need to research these topics, not simply guess at them or presume that you're familiar with what's important to them. In fact, I'd say it's almost certain that they only share with you information that they think is relevant to you or that they want you to have. So what you likely hear from prospects is limited. It's worthwhile hiring a consultant to do third-party persona interviews and create profiles of your ideal customer profile, buying team, and the buying journey, against which you can then map topics and later key terms and specific content pieces. Now, once you know the problems they're trying to solve, the outcomes that are important to their business, and the business conditions that they worry about, then you can begin to list the questions they ask. Some, they'll ask you. Many, they'll ask Google. We have to know what those questions are. From the questions, then, we can determine key terms that are important to target so that you'll pop up when someone asks Google that question. But of course, that's not enough. You also have to get clicked and then engage them once they're on your website. That means we also need to understand their research journey. In other words, what steps they will progressively follow. This is important because we need to create an information path for them that matches. In other words, what questions lead to what other questions. Further, we need to understand how that varies depending on the role they play in the buying team. The CFO will have different questions than a VP of engineering. And how far along they are in their buying journey, just investigating feasibility or finally approving capital. Once those elements are clear, then you can begin to plan content. Nothing. Now let me repeat that clearly. Nothing should be created in an ad hoc way. Every piece of content needs to have a very specific purpose. The buying role, the stage in the buying journey, the questions it answers, the key terms it's built on, the medium, whether it's video, webinar, article, etc. Your editorial calendar should include, at a minimum, consistent weekly blog posts, videos, webinars, public events where your people speak, press releases for content distribution purposes, guest posts for your team in other locations, and guest posts from others on your channels, as well as consistent contributions, for instance, to Forbes Council or industry trade journals. It should also include new site pages and offers. By offers, I mean content like downloadable checklists, guides, white papers, calculators, and things like that people exchange a name and an email to access. As you get better, you may add podcast episodes, you may rework some older articles, you may add a tech notes blog, for instance. Now you create the content against a calendar, but you also need to map it to various segments. For instance, to a vertical market, or to a certain buying role, or to a stage in the buying journey. That will give you the structure to deliver sales enablement value, helping sales understand what content to use in certain situations to help move deals along. It'll also help you structure buying journeys so that you can always be ready with the right answers for buyers as their thinking and journey evolves. So it's a natural process. Now let's not beat around the bush. This is a lot of work. It will take writers, editors, digital experts, a good CMS, content management system, and more. And you'll have to have platforms that make it easy to find content, to share it, and to track prospect engagements with it, which will deliver valuable intent insights to sales. And it's going to take a year of work before you see consistent measurable returns in rankings, and then traffic, and then lead conversions, and then meetings and projects, and eventually revenue. And that measurement will rely on good CRM and marketing automation tools and consistent, disciplined use of the tools. But if you do that, you'll know exactly what revenue can be traced to specific content origins and what revenue is influenced by which content. And that's beautiful, because after years of hoping the trade shows pay off and lamenting that you can't know which half of marketing is wasted, suddenly you'll know everything. Now the biggest challenge is probably going to be changing the mindset. Your content can't be what's left, once everyone accomplishes everything else on their list. It has to be accorded the same priority as other critical business tasks where we know it won't happen. The content will never get created. One final note, experience tells me that an alarming amount of content creation effort is wasted because it's created by folks with no real understanding of an industrial environment. You're going to have to rely on some outside assistance to get started. Make sure it's people who are at home on factory floors and who have carried industrial P&L. That's different than an agency that has a few industrial clients. I'm Ed Marsh. Thank you for joining me for this episode of Signals from the OP. If you enjoyed it, please share it and subscribe either to my YouTube channel, edmarshspeaks.tv, or at the related blog signalsfromtheop.com.